The Power of Your Inner Voice, a 5-day journey to unstoppable change. Your internal dialogue isn't just background noise, it's the architect of your destiny. The words you whisper to yourself when no one's listening become the blueprint of your reality. Everything you're experiencing right now, every limitation you believe you have, traces back to a single source, the conversation you've been having with yourself. This isn't philosophy, this is neuroscience. This is your life being constructed one thought at a time. And if you're brave enough to listen, I can show you how to rebuild it entirely. For the next 5 days, we're not discussing motivation or inspiration. We're dismantling the lies you've believed and constructing an unshakable foundation of personal power. This is where transformation doesn't whisper, it roars. Chapter 1. Dismantle the lie that you're lazy. Rebuild your identity. The greatest prison is the one you build for yourself with borrowed words. Most people never pause long enough to recognize what's actually blocking their path forward. They blame external circumstances, time constraints, financial obstacles, bad luck. But the real saboteur operates in silence. It's that internal voice, that relentless inner monologue where the true architecture of your limitations is constructed. And if you're consistently telling yourself, "I'm just a lazy person," or "I'm not built for excellence," you're not just expressing a temporary feeling, you're etching it into your identity. Here's what's really happening. You weren't born lazy. Laziness isn't written into your DNA. It's a behavior, a pattern, a habit of thought, and habits can be shattered. But at some point, life delivered its blows. You stumbled, your confidence fractured. Instead of fighting back with the truth, you surrendered to the narrative of inadequacy. You stopped saying, "I didn't apply enough effort today," and started saying, "I'm lazy." You stopped acknowledging, "I lost focus," and started declaring, "I'm broken." Do you see the catastrophic difference? The first is an observation, the second becomes your identity. This toxic internal monologue destroys you from the inside out. You say it once, almost carelessly, but then again and again until the lie becomes your reality. Before long, you've hypnotized yourself into believing that laziness is inherently who you are, not something you do, but something you are. That's where transformation dies. But here's your escape. Stop describing yourself as lazy and start describing what actually happened. This isn't about self-blame, it's about claiming your power back through radical honesty. You're not lazy, you've simply been undisciplined. You've been mentally exhausted. You've been overwhelmed without proper systems to regain control. You've been missing the structure, clarity, and accountability required to reshape your trajectory. That's changeable. That's fixable. That's the beginning of your comeback. From this moment forward, speak to yourself with surgical precision. Today, I didn't manage my time effectively. Tomorrow, I'll execute better. I missed my window this morning, but I can create momentum this afternoon. I can finish one meaningful thing. I will. This is the language of champions. This is how people who build empires talk to themselves. They don't wake up reciting affirmations about being amazing. They wake up committed to doing what matters. They don't carry yesterday's shame into today. They carry yesterday's lessons and today's discipline. The transformation isn't mystical, it's mechanical. Change your internal narrative and your external reality restructures itself automatically. But you cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge. So stop defending your inaction with labels. Start taking ownership. Start speaking like someone who's building something remarkable. Chapter 2. Reclaim your time like it's your most precious asset. Time isn't measured in minutes and seconds. It's measured in choices, in moments, in the singular opportunity called right now. There's a threshold in life where wasting time stops feeling harmless and starts feeling like something is literally dying inside you. You feel it in your chest, that gnawing weight, that gut-level recognition that you could have accomplished more, that could have moved your life forward, that you could have spent this morning building instead of consuming. These moments pile up, one atop another, until something inside you reaches its breaking point. That breaking point is where authentic change begins, not when circumstances become easier, but when you finally become fed up with yourself. Most people speak about time as if it's infinite. I'll do it later. I'll start tomorrow. I'll figure it out eventually. But later becomes weeks. Weeks transform into months. Before you realize what's happened, an entire year has evaporated. And the most devastating part? They've convinced themselves this is normal. They've rationalized delay. They've justified putting their dreams on hold until some mythical moment when life becomes more comfortable. But comfort is the graveyard of breakthroughs. Comfort is the slow death of potential. Ask yourself this with absolute honesty. When you've sacrificed an entire day to meaningless scrolling, mindless eating, and empty thinking, how do you speak to yourself? Do you shrug and think, well, maybe tomorrow will be different? Or do you face the mirror and declare, this is not the person I'm choosing to become? That difference in language is the difference between stagnation and revolution. If you're tired of wasting your finite existence, your internal monologue must reflect that exhaustion with unwavering clarity. You need language that penetrates, language that demands action, language that reminds you that time isn't currency, it's your life itself, and not a single moment returns. This requires talking to yourself like a leader, not a victim. A true leader doesn't accept waste and pretend everything's acceptable. A leader assesses, plans, holds themselves accountable, and refuses to negotiate with the temptation of comfort. Tomorrow morning, before your day hijacks you, speak with absolute conviction. My time is sacred today. Every hour belongs to my vision. I'm finished with delay. I'm finished with wishing. No more permission needed. I'm moving now.
There are people less talented than you, less intelligent than you, with fewer resources than you, and they're building lives of significance. Not because they're superior, but because they speak to themselves differently. When they squander a day, they don't hide from it. They don't rationalize. They look directly at it and say, that wasn't acceptable. I'm correcting this immediately. They don't require a new calendar year to transform. They require self-respect. And self-respect is built through language, through decision, through honoring your own minutes with the gravity they deserve. Start treating your hours like they're connected to your soul, because they are. Show me how someone spends their day, and I'll reveal what they truly value. You claim you want success, but are your actual hours invested in learning, building, creating, or are they surrendered to comfort, distraction, and procrastination? The only path to realignment is radical honesty in real time. When your mind whispers, I can do this later, speak back immediately. I've said that before. It cost me. I'm not repeating that mistake. That's the sound of someone who's finished wasting their existence. Stop chasing flawless days. Start chasing accountable ones. Days where you unflinchingly face what you accomplished, what you avoided, where your attention fractured. Then speak with authority, not excuses, but direction. This next hour belongs to me. I'm not surrendering the next 30 minutes to distraction. Today cannot be recovered if wasted, so I'm using it intentionally. I've squandered enough days. This version of myself is extinct. These aren't hollow affirmations. These are commands to your neural pathways. When you establish a pattern of speaking to yourself with urgency and intentionality, discipline builds automatically. You stop requiring motivation because the habit of decisive action has become your nature. You've experienced enough false starts. You've endured enough lost mornings. You've pretended long enough that the perfect moment will arrive on its own. It won't. The only perfect moment is the one you're living right now. Stop waiting. Start speaking like someone who knows every day is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Speak like someone who's finally had enough of waiting and wishing and cycling through the same patterns. Speak like someone actively building their legacy, not in some distant future, but today.
Chapter 3. Face your truth with unflinching clarity. The turning point in your life doesn't arrive when someone else demands your change. It arrives when you finally face yourself and speak what absolutely must shift. Not vaguely, not hopefully, but with crystal clear precision and uncompromising honesty. Too many people drift through years circling the same obstacles because they never demand clarity from themselves. They keep whispering vague platitudes. I need to improve. I should be more disciplined, but they never get specific. And here's the brutal truth. If you're not specific, you're not serious. You cannot transform what you're unwilling to face directly. You cannot solve problems you're afraid to name. Everything begins with a conversation, a real one, not a surface-level acknowledgement. Sit alone, eliminate all distractions, remove every excuse, and ask yourself these questions with the intensity they deserve. What am I doing that's sabotaging my momentum? What daily choices keep me imprisoned? What habits are systematically pulling me away from the life I'm desperate to build? These questions aren't designed to generate shame. They're designed to create illumination. Truth always precedes transformation. If you're starving yourself of sleep because you're addicted to late-night scrolling and it's obliterating your mornings, don't whisper it softly. Declare it firmly. My phone habit is destroying my potential. This ends today. If you're hemorrhaging your most productive hours to distraction and autopilot, acknowledge it without flinching. I'm sabotaging my best time. I'm throwing away my peak mental capacity. I'm breaking my own promises. If you're avoiding your most important work because fear has paralyzed you, speak it into existence. I've been hiding behind busy work. I've been running from the things that actually scare me. That chapter is closing right now. When you speak to yourself with this level of directness and brutal honesty, you unlock a power most people never access. There's no ambiguity. There's nowhere for lies to hide. There's no escape from the truth. And when you stop lying to yourself, you finally start solving problems at their source. Real, lasting change doesn't emerge from excitement or motivation. It emerges from precision. Most people fail not because they lack strength. They fail because they're dangerously vague. They keep saying, I need to get my life together, but they never sit down and define what that actually means for them specifically. Maybe getting it together means waking up before dawn. Maybe it means eliminating toxic relationships. Maybe it means removing the apps that hijack your attention. Maybe it means building a non-negotiable schedule. But you can't do any of those things if you don't name them one by one with specificity. You don't need a list of 20 transformations. You need one clear obstacle blocking your path right now. Just one thing that's actively preventing your progress. Identify it, say it aloud, commit to dismantling it. That level of clarity and directness will deliver more momentum than every motivational video ever created. Develop an addiction to clarity. When you sense something's off, don't ignore it, investigate it. When you fail to deliver on a promise you made to yourself, don't move forward without understanding why. When a goal keeps getting postponed, stop blaming your schedule and examine your behavior. Identify what you need to stop doing. Declare what needs to begin. This is where meaningful progress originates, not from louder voices, but from deeper listening. You already know what's been holding you back. You've known for a while. You've just been avoiding the conversation, minimizing it, hoping somehow it would resolve itself. It won't. Change never happens accidentally. It happens when you take control of the narrative in your own consciousness. You must lead yourself the way you'd lead someone you genuinely love. If someone precious to you was struggling, you wouldn't offer vague suggestions. You'd say, this is the problem. This is what needs to happen. I believe you can do this. Now turn that directness toward yourself. You're the only one who hears every thought, every rationalization, every moment of self-sabotage.
That responsibility means you're also the only one who can interrupt these patterns in real time. You cannot keep letting yourself off the hook. You cannot accept soft responses to serious questions.
If you're hitting snooze every morning, don't hide behind, "I'm just not a morning person." Speak truth. I'm choosing comfort over my own potential. If months have passed with zero progress on what matters, don't blame circumstances. Say, "I've been dodging my actual priorities." These words will sting. They should. That sting is the sensation of your old identity cracking, and in that crack, something stronger is being born. When you start speaking to yourself with this kind of honesty, sharp, unfiltered, completely authentic, everything shifts. You walk into your day with laser focus. You approach your goals with unmistakable direction. You stop chasing random inspirations and start building a system. Your mind is no longer clouded with confusion because you've already told yourself what needs to change, and now you're free to take action. You don't need perfect answers. You need truthful ones. If something's broken, but you don't know how to fix it, that's acceptable. But at least speak what's fractured. If you don't know where to start, admit that too. But stop pretending the problem doesn't exist. There's immense power in simply naming what's wrong, because the moment you name it, it transforms from something shadowy and undefined into something visible, and what you can see, you can change. Begin each day with a brief, honest assessment, not a motivational speech, just a genuine check-in with yourself. What actually needs to shift today? Sit with the question. Breathe into it. Write it down if you need to. Be ruthlessly specific. Maybe it's your lack of structure. Maybe it's how you're wasting your evenings on meaningless content. Maybe it's how you keep saying yes to things that deplete you. Identify one. Call it out. Commit to progress today. You don't need to solve your entire existence in a single day, but you absolutely need to move forward. And forward movement begins with clarity, with that singular conversation where you stop pretending everything's fine and start saying, "This is the area I've been ignoring," and it transforms right now. That one shift in focus can restart your entire trajectory. You don't have time to keep repeating patterns. You don't have time to keep postponing growth. And you definitely don't have time to keep living in confusion about what needs fixing. Find your truth, even when, especially when, it's uncomfortable, because truth is the only catalyst for real action. Chapter 4. Replace every complaint with one powerful next step. Complaining offers a seductive release. It creates the illusion that you've accomplished something, even when you've done nothing. But here's the reality you need to absorb. Complaining solves absolutely nothing. It doesn't move your life forward. It doesn't clear your obstacles. It doesn't fix the underlying problem. All it does is drain your life force and ensure you stay exactly where you've always been. Every complaint is a rehearsal of your problem, and the more you rehearse it, the more it embeds itself into your identity, into your narrative, into who you believe you are. Your mind is wired for comfort. Complaining is comfortable. It gives you language when you don't want to take responsibility. It gives you something to focus on when you're avoiding action. But if you want genuine transformation, you must replace this pattern with something infinitely more powerful. One single, clear next step. That's it. Not a manifesto, not an elaborate strategy, just one action. This shift in approach will fundamentally restructure how you respond to life. The moment you feel the impulse to complain, pause, breathe, ask yourself directly, what is one thing I can do about this right now? You don't need the complete solution. You don't need all the answers. You simply need to identify the immediate next step. A single step generates momentum. A complaint generates nothing but stagnation. You're allowed to feel frustrated. You're allowed to feel overwhelmed, but you cannot afford to stay there. The moment your frustration becomes your language, it becomes your belief. And the moment it becomes your belief, it becomes your perpetual reality. This is how people remain trapped for years. They keep describing their problems rather than disrupting them with action. Look at your own existence. How many times have you said, "I'm exhausted by this. Nothing's working. Why does this keep happening to me?" How many hours have you spent venting without ever following that frustration with actual movement?
How many days have been consumed describing obstacles instead of breaking through them? You don't need more time. You don't need more opportunities. You need to trade every single complaint for crystal clear direction. Get frustrated? Fine, but immediately follow it with this. What would actually change this? Then do that thing. Do it while exhausted. Do it while uncertain. Do it without motivation, but do it. The moment you stop using your voice to describe problems and start using it to direct your next step, you activate a force called momentum, and momentum creates confidence. Momentum creates results. Momentum slowly erases every part of you that relied on blame to feel better. Nobody builds anything significant by dwelling in their emotions. They build through decisive action, through clarity, through the unwavering belief that effort matters more than explanation. That's the person you must become. Develop the habit of immediate redirection. The second you catch yourself complaining, interrupt the pattern. Demand clarity. What can I do in the next 5 minutes that would improve this even slightly? This single practice returns control over your emotions, your focus, and your time. You don't need to battle every thought that arises. You just need to redirect it. You don't need to eliminate frustration. You need to transcend it. And the fastest path to transcendence is proving to yourself that you're more powerful than your reactive impulses, that you can transform energy into action, that you can convert pressure into progress. One step, one task, one decision. That single shift in focus rewires your consciousness, and a rewired consciousness builds a completely different life. You'll begin seeing yourself differently. Not as someone trapped by circumstances, but as someone taking charge. Not as someone waiting for conditions to improve, but as someone generating their own momentum. That new identity emerges from your daily language, from the words you choose, from the actions you take when everything feels chaotic. You're not powerless because you feel stuck. You're stuck because you're repeating the same mental patterns, and those patterns are reinforced every time you complain. Break the cycle by reversing it. Take your frustration and channel it into clarity. What's the next step I can take? What can I finish in the next 20 minutes? What task have I been avoiding that I can initiate right now? What single habit can I reset today, not tomorrow?
Don't overthink it. Don't amplify it. Just act. And when your mind tries pulling you back toward comfort, speak with authority. I don't need to complain. I need to complete. I need to move. I need to act. That single sentence can redirect your entire day. You cannot build anything strong on a foundation of focus on what's wrong. You build with decisive action. You build with self-leadership. You build with that inner voice that thunders, enough talk, time to move. Not eventually, now. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means you don't remain inside them. You don't transform feelings into an endless story you repeat to yourself. You acknowledge what you're feeling. You recognize what's happening. You ask what you can do about it, and then you do it. Train yourself to follow this pattern every single day. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be consistent. Every complaint becomes a trigger for movement. Every excuse becomes a call to action. You demonstrate to yourself that you're capable. You show your brain that you're the authority. And through repetition, this becomes your nature. This is how people completely transform themselves, not through perfect systems, but through how they respond to small frustrations. Most of existence is small moments, minor setbacks, tiny choices. If you master how you speak to yourself in those small moments, you gain dominion over everything. Today might feel impossibly heavy. You might feel far behind. But instead of vocalizing that, try this. I'm behind, so I'm focusing on one powerful thing right now. This is hard, but I'm going to do what I can anyway. Complaining won't help. Action will. Simple, direct, effective. You'll notice something remarkable begin happening. When you trade complaints for action, your entire energy transforms. Your mood elevates. Your mental clarity sharpens. Your energy surges.
Your mind clears. Because consciousness doesn't thrive in stillness. It doesn't flourish in confusion. It thrives on progress, on direction, on visible forward motion, and it follows your lead entirely. You set the tone through your words. Speak like someone who knows how to respond effectively. Speak like someone who's decided that their life is more important than their frustration. Speak like someone who chooses to repair what's fixable rather than endlessly describing what's broken. One step forward carries more power than 100 complaints. One completed task is stronger than 1,000 explanations. One calm, deliberate action accomplishes more than any emotional eruption ever could.
Chapter 5. Speak words that make you feel like a champion. Here's something most people never fully understand. The way you speak to yourself matters infinitely more than almost anything else in your life. Every single word you say, whether whispered internally or spoken aloud, is literally sculpting how you perceive yourself. If those words are weak, negative, saturated with doubt, then that's exactly who you become. But when you choose language that you'd be proud to hear, when you speak with strength, with honor, with compassion, something profound awakens inside you. You begin believing in your own value again. You begin operating in a way that reflects power instead of defeat. Most people don't speak to themselves with pride. They speak with regret. They marinate in shame. They relive mistakes. They catalog everything they didn't accomplish. Then they wonder why they feel trapped, drained, disconnected from their ambitions. It's because their internal voice is actively dismantling them. And the tragedy is they don't even recognize it's happening. They think self-criticism is normal. They believe self-respect arrives after success. But this is backwards. Success is actually built on a foundation of self-respect. Self-respect is constructed through the language you choose. You don't need to be perfect to speak with pride. You don't need to have everything figured out. You simply need to choose words that reflect the future you're actively building, not the mistakes you've already made. This doesn't mean lying to yourself. It doesn't mean ignoring your genuine flaws. It means refusing to speak about yourself like you don't matter, because you absolutely do. Your words should reflect that reality. Instead of saying, "I'm no good at this," say, "I'm learning and getting stronger with every attempt." Instead of saying, "I failed again," say, "I'm taking full responsibility and fixing this right now." Instead of saying, "I'm different from successful people," say, "I'm dedicated to building my best possible version." These sound simple, but they fundamentally alter how you perceive yourself. They change how you respond to challenges. They alter how you show up in your own story. This isn't toxic positivity. This is honest speech without self-destruction. There's an enormous difference between being truthful and being harmful. Saying, "I need to improve," is truthful. Saying, "I'm a failure," is destructive. Saying, "I'm still figuring this out," is truthful. Saying, "I'll never get this right," is poison. Your brain absorbs every word. Your emotions respond to them. Over time, your entire behavioral system aligns with the narrative you've created. You must stop allowing old labels to define your present and future. Just because someone once called you lazy, slow, or incapable doesn't mean you need to keep repeating that sentence about yourself. You're not locked into the version of yourself that was confused, lost, or wounded. You have the power to evolve beyond that, but it starts with your words. When you're completely alone, when nobody's observing, that's when your true identity is being forged. Not when others are watching, but when it's just you and your thoughts. That's where you're being constructed. Start practicing this daily. Upon waking, speak something with conviction. "I'm grateful for how I keep showing up. I'm excited about my continued growth. I don't need to prove anything to anyone else. I just need to honor my own commitments." These words don't need volume. They just need authenticity. They need to embody effort, direction, and genuine purpose. When difficulty inevitably arrives,
Don't deploy your voice as another weight on your shoulders. Use it to construct strength. When your body's exhausted, say, "I've accomplished so much today and I'm still moving forward." When you've made a mistake, say, "That's on me and I know exactly how to fix it." When you feel behind in life, say, "This moment is temporary. I've recovered from harder things." This kind of internal dialogue isn't manufactured, it's strategic. It positions your mind to solve problems instead of surrendering to them.
You need to speak like someone you genuinely admire, someone you actually respect. Not because you're pretending, but because you're choosing to become something greater. You wouldn't look someone you cherish in the eyes and tell them you'll never be good enough. So why would you say that to yourself? What you tell yourself in the privacy of your own mind is just as real, just as impactful, and often even more powerful than anything you say out loud. That's precisely why you must choose language that generates pride. Not arrogance, not false confidence, just genuine, grounded self-respect. The kind that says, "I'm trying, I'm learning, I'm becoming stronger, I'm not abandoning myself." You must understand this clearly. Pride isn't manufactured from outcomes. Pride is built on effort, and effort is amplified through language. When you speak like someone who's showing up with genuine intention, you establish a foundation that can withstand any bad day, any slow week, any setback. Because underneath it all, you know your words are constructing you, not dismantling you. Every time you choose better language, you train your brain to locate solutions. You condition your heart to remain open. You prime your entire body to respond with power. This isn't manipulation. This is how human consciousness actually functions. We naturally grow into the standards we declare for ourselves. So elevate the standard. Eliminate language that makes you feel diminished. Erase phrases that keep you feeling trapped. If a sentence doesn't fuel your development, don't use it. Substitute it. Say what builds. Say what propels you forward. Say what liberates. When you look in the mirror, don't just see what's broken. Recognize what you're actively repairing. When anxiety rises, don't label yourself as damaged. Remind yourself, "I'm learning to navigate pressure with increasing strength every single day." When you feel behind, don't declare yourself lazy. Say, "I understand what truly matters now. I'm directing my energy there." That shift alone transforms everything: your emotional state, your work quality, your entire day. There's no shortcut to genuine confidence, but there absolutely is a path. That path is paved with the language you use in your solitary moments. The stronger your words, the stronger your actions. The sharper your language, the more consistent your progress. This isn't about tricking your mind. This is about leading it. You won't always feel motivated. You won't always be in the mood, but your words can serve as a constant reminder of who you're becoming. And when your actions align with that internal voice, you build authentic momentum. This is how real people transform, not by waiting for motivation to appear, but by generating it through disciplined language, by choosing to speak in a way they're genuinely proud of, even when circumstances aren't perfect. That's what genuine maturity sounds like. That's what authentic growth sounds like. Make this your daily practice. Every morning and every evening, speak one sentence you'd be proud to hear from yourself. It could be straightforward. "I'm not finished growing. I gave everything I had today. I stayed steady and handled what was in front of me." These sentences are like bricks. Every single day you lay another one. Over time, you construct a mental landscape that supports you, not one that tears you down. You experience enough external pressure already. Don't become another voice adding to that weight. Instead, become the voice that explains why you're trying. Become the voice that keeps you anchored when uncertainty surrounds you. Become the voice that fills you with pride even when nobody else witnesses your effort. That's the voice that carries you through darkness. That's the voice that builds genuine strength you can depend on. And that voice is built entirely through choice, one word at a time, every single day. Chapter 6. Break through silence and speak your hidden truth. There are truths you haven't expressed that are pressing down on you. Not necessarily to other people, sometimes not even consciously to yourself. You've been holding them inside, not because you lack courage, but because facing them feels too heavy, because naming them feels too real. But the truth doesn't evaporate when you bury it, it simply sits inside you, growing heavier with each passing day. And eventually, that accumulated silence becomes the very force keeping you imprisoned, confused, frustrated, and disconnected from your goals. Because nothing transforms until you summon the strength to speak what you've been running from. Avoidance isn't peace, it's merely delay masquerading as safety. Silence feels secure, but it steals your momentum. You might believe that not speaking something protects you from pain, but in reality it only preserves your current patterns. If you genuinely want to move forward, if you genuinely want authentic growth, if you want to finally stop feeling trapped, then you must find the courage to say what makes your hands shake and your chest tighten. You must confront the truth you've been avoiding. Avoidance is relentless exhaustion. It keeps you appearing productive while delivering zero results. It keeps your mind circling the same problem endlessly, and the longer you avoid something, the more it metastasizes into a monster in your consciousness. But the instant you speak it, the moment you acknowledge it, you strip away its power. You name it, you own it, and that's the crucial first step towards dismantling it. Maybe there's something you must say to yourself. Maybe you need to admit, I'm not okay with how I've been living. I've been terrified to begin, so I've constructed excuses. I keep telling people I'm fine, but inside I'm struggling every single day. I project confidence while feeling like I'm failing. These truths aren't signs of weakness, they're starting points. They're precisely where honesty begins, and with honesty comes transformation. You cannot construct genuine power on a foundation of silence. You cannot build authentic progress from a place where nothing is being spoken. Real advancement starts with clarity. Clarity originates from speaking the truth you've been concealing. It doesn't matter how extended your silence has been. What matters is that you choose right now to speak up. Not for anyone else, purely for yourself. When you suppress things, you give them command over you. When you speak them, you reclaim your power. You bring the truth into open space where it can be addressed. Even if you don't have solutions yet, even if you're uncertain about next steps, speaking aloud is your first act of self-leadership. It's how you escape your own shadow. There is tremendous power in saying things exactly as they are. No minimization, no dodge, just looking directly at what's true. This doesn't mean being harsh with yourself. It means being direct. It means saying, this is what I've been running from. This is what absolutely must shift. This is where my transformation initiates.
This dialogue doesn't require an audience. It just requires you. You speaking truth in a quiet room. You choosing to say what you've been terrified to even fully think about. You releasing the fear of discomfort so genuine growth can emerge. Start with the plainest sentence you've been avoiding. I'm not proud of how I've spent my time. I've been clinging to something I need to release. I understand what needs to happen, but I've been afraid to admit it. Don't overthink it. Just express it plainly. Express it without judgment, because the goal isn't flawlessness. The goal is progress. And progress awakens when silence ends. We all evade things. We all shove things aside when they feel too weighty. But genuine maturity arrives when you stop waiting for the perfect moment to speak and simply speak because it's time to advance. You don't need to have all the solutions. You just need to be truthful about where you stand and what you've been running from. Maybe there's a decision you've been postponing. Maybe there's a pattern you know is harmful. Maybe there's a relationship draining you.
Maybe there's a dream you quietly abandoned. Whatever it is, speak it. Say it clearly. Extract it from your mind and into reality where it can be addressed. You don't need anyone's permission to be authentic. You don't need approval to speak what's true. You simply need enough self-respect to believe I matter enough to be completely honest with myself. That singular belief can sustain you through anything. Because when you're truthful, you become powerful. When you stop hiding, you become free. When you face reality, you give yourself permission to finally build something better. You might fear what will happen if you admit certain things, but what you should genuinely fear is what happens when you don't, because silence doesn't protect you. Silence imprisons you. And your transformation exists on the opposite side of that prison wall. Today, disrupt the pattern. Say the difficult thing. Say the thing you've rehearsed 1,000 times in your mind but never had the courage to voice. Say the words that have been pressing against your heart. Speak the reality that feels uncomfortable but necessary. That's exactly where healing originates. That's where clarity emerges. That's where you stop repeating the same struggles and finally break free. You don't need to speak everything at once. Just initiate with one thing, one sentence, one piece of the truth. That's sufficient to remove the weight from your shoulders and place it back into your hands where you can actually do something about it. You'll be astounded what transpires when you speak. You'll feel lighter. You'll feel more lucid. You'll feel more in control. Not because everything's solved, but because you're no longer hiding. You're facing it. You're showing up. That's everything. Chapter 7. Cut through doubt with one decisive action. Doubt doesn't wait for an invitation. It doesn't respect boundaries. It doesn't check in to see if you're prepared for it. It simply manifests, sometimes silently, sometimes loudly, whenever you contemplate any significant change in your existence. The moment you imagine doing something new, something challenging, something that genuinely matters, that voice emerges. It questions. It interrogates. It asks whether you're ready, whether you possess the capability, whether you're the type of person who actually follows through. If you don't interrupt it, if you don't challenge it, that voice becomes the narrator of your entire day. Doubt wins when you remain passive. It gains strength when you stay quiet. But here's the reality. Doubt isn't a red light telling you to stop. It's a red light telling you to accelerate. And not just with any action, but with one decisive, purposeful move that establishes the tone for your entire day. You don't fight doubt with additional thinking. You don't overcome it through more hesitation. You shatter it through choice. You push back against that internal monologue with a clear, direct action in the opposite direction. You interrupt it by demonstrating that you remain the authority. You don't need total clarity about outcomes. You don't need a complete blueprint. You simply need one powerful decision that propels your life forward. One step, one action, one genuine commitment. That single decision becomes your evidence. It becomes your answer to every question doubt is asking. You demonstrate through action that you're directing your day based on choice, not feeling. Not based on initial conditions, but based on what you decide. You don't wake up with confidence, you construct it. You don't emerge certain, you generate that certainty through what you choose to do first. If your first action is hesitation, your entire day mirrors that hesitation. But if your first action is a genuine decision, you shift the entire trajectory. You transition from delay to direction, and that shift reconstructs everything. Initiate with the moment you open your eyes. That's precisely where doubt initiates. That's where you extinguish it. When your mind whispers, linger in bed a bit longer, your response is, I'm rising. Now we begin. That's your first victory, and it matters because it demonstrates to your consciousness that you're the one in command, not your sensations, not your worry, not your preference for comfort. Every instance doubt appears is a test, Not a test of whether you're perfect, but a test of whether you're genuinely serious. If you permit that doubt to linger, it shapes your direction. But if you interrupt it with a definitive decision, you sustain your momentum. And motion is the medicine for uncertainty. Motion constructs belief. Motion tells your brain, I'm not frozen, I'm not paralyzed, I'm advancing even without perfect answers. This doesn't mean you'll always feel confident. It means you'll take action despite uncertainty. You'll establish a rhythm where decisions precede overthinking, where motion supersedes hesitation, where your instinction is to execute something powerful the instant you feel yourself drifting into second-guessing. Ask yourself directly, what's one powerful decision I can make right now that will extract me from this doubt? It doesn't need to be massive, it just needs to matter. Feeling like skipping your workout? Decide to put on your shoes and walk out the door. Doubting your ability to complete a project? Decide to set a 30-minute timer and initiate. Questioning your progress? Decide to list out 3 concrete steps you can take today. These decisions interrupt the spiral. They penetrate the noise. They remind you that doubt is simply a thought, not established reality. The most dangerous thing about doubt is not how it makes you feel, it's what it makes you skip. It steals your moments, it pulls you away from opportunities, and over time it constructs an expanding chasm between who you currently are and who you're capable of becoming. That gap expands with every moment you pick silence over motion, but it narrows with every decision you make that moves you forward.
Establish the practice of choosing power over confusion. Even when you feel uncertain, act like you know exactly what to do. Trust the immediate next step. You don't need to orchestrate your entire existence today, but you absolutely must demonstrate to yourself that uncertainty doesn't control you, that you can navigate, choose, decide, and lead yourself even through ambiguity. Nobody transcends doubt permanently, but the strongest people don't give it room to expand. They don't nurture it. They don't remain inside it for extended periods. They interrupt it rapidly, consistently, with unwavering clarity. That's what you need to practice relentlessly every single day. Not occasionally, but every single day. Make one decision each day that cuts straight through the noise. Make one decision that represents who you're becoming. It might be waking earlier. It might be declining something that distracts you. It might be speaking up when silence usually wins. It might be finally commencing what you've been avoiding. Whatever it is, decide. Choose it with complete focus. Let that singular action be evidence that you're orchestrating your day, instead of allowing your emotions to orchestrate you. The longer you wait to decide, the louder doubt becomes. It initiates small, then expands. It interrogates everything: your capability, your background, your timing, your potential. It amplifies problems beyond their actual size. That's precisely why you cannot permit it to linger. You must respond before it gains momentum, and the most powerful response is always movement. Constant, unwavering movement. This is how you cultivate psychological power, not by avoiding doubt, but by confronting it directly with a decision that demonstrates you're still commanding your own trajectory. Every time you do this, your confidence expands. Not the superficial kind that depends on success, but the genuine kind that's constructed on demonstrating to yourself that you act despite fear, that you move despite uncertainty, that you decide despite not having all the answers. Chapter 8. Strip away mental chaos and speak with laser focus. Your mind is a battlefield every single day. Competing thoughts, persistent worry, memories cycling through, endless comparisons, rapid-fire decisions, constant second-guessing, relentless distraction, all of them battling for mental real estate. Most days, you're not even conscious of this chaos. You just feel fatigued, unsettled, perpetually unclear.
You feel simultaneously overloaded and unproductive. You feel like you're exerting tremendous effort while accomplishing very little. You sense an inability to concentrate, to complete, to even breathe without something yanking your attention in yet another direction. That's not because you're broken or disciplined. It's because your consciousness is drowning in noise you've never taken time to eliminate. Mental noise isn't always audible. Usually it's just incessant mental activity, reliving identical problems without resolving them, imagining what others are thinking, overanalyzing your own decisions, catastrophizing small situations, inflating minor events into crises. And while you're consumed by all that, the real you, the version of you that's sharp, clear, and completely concentrated, gets buried. Your focus dissolves. Your purpose becomes invisible. And the worst part? You've come to accept this as normal. But it's not. Living in this constant mental storm isn't normal. It's not normal to feel overwhelmed by your own thoughts. It's not normal to speak to yourself in ways that complicate everything further. The real truth, most of us don't lack discipline. We're drowning in mental clutter. And the remedy isn't pushing harder or thinking more. The remedy is elimination. Strip it down. Return to what genuinely matters. Speak to yourself from that clear space with pure, direct honesty. You have to stop entertaining every single thought that appears. Just because something enters your awareness doesn't mean it deserves your energy. Most of it is simply background noise absorbed from external sources. Things you saw online, things others mentioned, fears that don't belong to you, outdated beliefs that have no business in your current life. But if you don't deliberately question these thoughts, you'll act on them, you'll carry them, you'll live by them, and quietly they'll dominate your existence. You can't think with clarity in a chaotic environment. That includes the landscape inside your own mind. That's exactly why you must slow down. Not your actions, but your reactive thinking. Not your ambition, but your unconscious responses. Every time your mind spins into chaos, pause and demand, what am I actually trying to accomplish right now? That one question alone can extract you from the noise and ground you in genuine purpose. Clarity doesn't materialize from velocity. It emerges from pause, from conscious breathing, from creating mental space to understand what you truly want, what genuinely matters, and what your actual immediate next step truly is. You don't need 10 steps. You simply need one genuinely clear one. But to locate it, everything else must become quiet. There are individuals who spend years in constant motion, and yet they never experience forward progress. Not because they're inactive, but because they're not thinking clearly. They keep responding instead of directing. They keep shifting targets. They keep adjusting plans. They keep interrogating themselves. They keep restarting. Not from laziness, but from noise, from unclear thinking, from treating every thought as equally important. You can no longer afford to live that way. You don't need additional motivation. You need concentrated focus. You don't need more noise in the form of recommendations, viewpoints, and what everyone else is doing. You need your own voice, your clear voice, the voice that reveals what authentically matters. Begin filtering your thoughts deliberately. When you feel overwhelmed, demand, what's actually real in this moment? What deserves my energy? What doesn't? What am I amplifying beyond its actual significance? What am I evading because my attention keeps getting pulled elsewhere? Then speak clearly. Speak with calm direction, not emotional turmoil. Say things like, I'm completing this specific task before touching anything else. This thought doesn't serve me, so I'm releasing it. I don't need to solve everything today. I just need to complete what's directly in front of me. These phrases become anchors. They penetrate the noise. They reestablish who's actually in control. You need to master the habit of mental simplicity. Quit stacking your mind with endless worries. Stop flooding every moment with content consumption and reactive behavior. Start choosing silence. Start choosing spaciousness. Start choosing intentional living. That's how clarity flourishes. And when clarity flourishes, momentum naturally follows.
You stop hesitating. You stop ruminating. You commence taking action. You commence advancing, not in every direction, but in the correct direction. That's what genuinely transforms your existence. Not doing additional things, but doing the right thing with absolute concentration. The majority of the stress you experience doesn't originate from what you're doing. It originates from what you're mentally holding, from conversations you haven't had, from decisions you keep postponing, from expectations that aren't even legitimately yours. Release them. Document them if you require it. Then clear your mental space. Simplify your thinking. Permit yourself to speak like someone in leadership, not someone following chaos. This is how powerful individuals function, not with flawless systems, but with unmistakable clarity about what matters. They understand exactly what they're executing today. They understand what they're disregarding, and they don't apologize for it. Because clarity is a safeguard. It shields your time. It shields your energy. It shields your momentum. Start shielding your clarity. When you notice yourself spiraling, declare, "This thought isn't helping me. I'm finishing this first. I know my direction, and distraction doesn't win today." These aren't motivational phrases. These are explicit commands for your consciousness. And when you lead your mind with clarity, your actions naturally align. Stop expressing yes to everything your thoughts suggest. Stop chasing every inspiration. Stop reacting to every emotion. You don't need to enter every mental debate your mind invites you into. You can simply declare, "Not now. That's not worth it. Here's what I'm doing instead." Your language determines your focus, and your focus determines your day. Choose your words like they matter, because they absolutely do. The way you speak to yourself establishes the tone. It either generates peace or creates stress, power or weakness, intention or panic. If you want tranquility, speak peacefully. If you want concentration, speak directly. If you want advancement, speak with structure. Be explicit, be truthful, be focused. You don't require lengthy speeches, you simply require clear commands. Start the timer and begin. Turn off the phone and execute. Disregard the noise and finish this step. That's how you win your day. Not by dominating everything, but by governing your awareness. Treat your consciousness like it's valuable, because it absolutely is. Don't permit it to drift into locations that waste your resources. Don't permit it to deteriorate into conversations that accomplish nothing. Lead it, direct it, speak to it with intention, and observe how transformed you feel. You don't require additional time. You don't need a different strategy. You just need clarity. Clarity isn't something you locate, it's something you generate through stillness, through concentration, through deliberately choosing the right thoughts and speaking the right words. You've already heard this truth in different language, but it demands repetition, because this principle will change your life more than almost anything else. Complaining generates absolutely nothing. It transforms nothing. It doesn't propel your existence forward. It doesn't eliminate your barriers. It doesn't resolve your actual problems. All it accomplishes is depleting your vital energy while keeping you locked in identical patterns. Every complaint is reinforcement of your problem. The other times you reinforce it, the more it becomes woven into your self-narrative. Your consciousness gravitates towards comfort. Complaint provides comfort. It supplies language when you'd rather abdicate responsibility. It provides focus when you're escaping accountability. But if you want authentic transformation, you must exchange this pattern with something exponentially more potent. One unmistakable, focused next step. That's the entire formula. There's genuine power contained in being able to say at the end of the day,
I showed up. Not I was perfect, not I succeeded at everything, not even I completed my objectives. Simply, I showed up. That single declaration carries more weight than most recognize, because the truth is, most don't. Most are physically existing, but mentally absent. Most are performing, but not genuinely invested. Most are mechanically moving without genuine heart behind it. That hollow existence constructs a life that appears productive, but feels profoundly empty. But genuine showing up means something entirely different. It means you were there with purpose. It means you generated effort when surrender would have been simpler. It means you navigated the chaos and remained anchored to your objectives, even in small ways. It means that regardless of how the day unfolded, you didn't let it pass without contributing something of yourself towards your own transformation. You don't need to triumph every single day, but you absolutely must show up for yourself. You must be capable of sitting down when evening arrives, reflecting on the chaos and declaring, I didn't hide, I didn't escape, I didn't check out. I showed up. That might mean you initiated your exercise despite low energy. It might mean you composed one meaningful page when scrolling would have been simpler. It might mean you remained composed when every impulse screamed to react. Showing up isn't grandiose, it's grounded. It's about presence. It's about genuine effort. It's about consistency in motion. When you show up continuously, you start building something you can genuinely depend on, yourself. Over time, that self-reliance becomes your authentic confidence because you're not depending on external luck. You're not waiting for perfect timing. You're not outsourcing your future to someone else. You're executing your portion every single day, and you're conscious of that reality. That's why your evening language matters so profoundly. The way you speak to yourself as sleep approaches determines how you begin the subsequent day.
If you finish your day with frustration, with condemnation, with disgrace, you carry that into tomorrow. But if you finish with honesty, with ownership, with dignified acknowledgement, you initiate the next day differently. You begin with clarity, not remorse, with power, not regret. Grant yourself that gift. Grant yourself the opportunity to think back each evening and express something that reinforces you. Say, I didn't betray my own commitment. Say, I moved forward. Say, I didn't escape what matters. Say, I demonstrated up for my own future. Don't depend on external recognition of your effort. Don't require applause. Don't chase validation from others to acknowledge that what you did today signifies something. You experienced it. You lived it. You accomplished it. That's sufficient. You understand the variation between a day when you were checked out and a day when you were genuinely engaged. You don't require permission to celebrate showing up. You simply require honesty. This practice, reflecting each evening with clarity, anchors you profoundly. It maintains you connected to the existence you're actively constructing. Because life isn't assembled in dramatic bursts, it's constructed through small commitments. It's assembled in quiet determination. And the individuals who create genuine transformation aren't those who explode with effort for 1 week. They're those who display up consistently, even when it feels mundane, even when it's challenging, even when nobody else observes it. Therefore, establish it as your standard. Before rest, ask yourself genuinely, did I show up today? But don't confuse that question with, was I flawless or did I accomplish everything? That misses the essential point. The question is, did I remain connected to my actual values? Did I execute something that reflected my objectives? Did I lead myself with honesty and authentic effort? If the answer is yes, even in modest ways, you've accomplished something genuine. You've constructed something substantial. You've positioned another brick in the architecture of who you're becoming. If the answer is no, don't spiral into self-destruction. Don't condemn yourself. Just speak the truth. I missed today,
but I'm not permitting it to become 2 consecutive days. That sentence itself is a form of showing up because it demonstrates you're not escaping, you're staying engaged, you're choosing presence tomorrow. This centers on commitment, yet it's also about discovering peace, because peace emerges from understanding you didn't abandon your existence, you didn't distract yourself from the difficult elements, you didn't vanish into rationalization, you demonstrated up, you remained inside it, and even when it felt chaotic, it was authentic. Authentic effort permanently matters more than flawless appearances. When you transform this into your established practice, your entire perspective shifts. You stop chasing perfection, you begin treasuring presence. You stop measuring your worth exclusively through outcomes, you begin treasuring reliability. That restructures everything because it means you're participating in the extended game. You're assembling something enduring. You're becoming someone you genuinely admire. Communicate that reality to yourself, not as external reward, but as authentic recognition. Say, I executed what I promised myself. I pushed through opposition. I didn't require perfection to persist. That form of reflection reconstructs your internal architecture. It resets your benchmarks. It transforms showing up into your default mode, not the exception.